Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am a regular dude walking in the Word. Hey, today we have a longer chapter here. Actually, it's part of a chapter. The next chapter we're going to be doing in 2 days here. But we're going to be reading Leviticus chapter 13, verses 1 through 46. And I'm going to jump right in here. Today it's it's entitled Sin is More Than Skin Deep. Okay? We're talking about leprosy, really, in today's diseases. It's called Hansen's disease. But this is leprosy. What I want you to see, not so much is like all the different things you had to do with leprosy, but leprosy is a picture of sin, okay? And it's not saying that everyone who had leprosy back in the Old Testament was, well, of course they were all sinners, but you didn't get leprosy because you sinned necessarily. It was a disease that sometimes you got it if you were sinning, but sometimes you didn't if you were not sinning, okay? But it is a picture of sin, okay? And how sin affects us. And you're going to see that the Hansen's disease or leprosy, it goes deeper than your skin, okay? And when it goes deeper than your skin, the priests are like, you can't come in here, or you're unholy, and so forth. And eventually it'll come to the point where it like tears up your nerves and stuff, and then you can't feel. So let's say it's tearing up the nerves in my fingers. Well, I'll go and put my hand on a hot muffler and not even think about it, and it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't hurt me because I don't feel that hurt. But then I look down and, my hand is burning, and stuff like that. So it does that to you, but then also some of your fingers and stuff start to fall off because of the damage it does to you. Okay, so it's kind of a gross disease here. Let me read here. This is Leviticus chapter 13, verses 1 through 46. It says this: The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "If anyone has a swelling or a rash or discolored skin that might develop into a serious skin disease, that person must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons. The priest will examine the affected area of the skin. If the hair in the affected area has turned white, the problem appears to be more than skin deep. It is a serious skin disease, and the priest who examines it must pronounce this person ceremonially unclean. But the affected area of the skin is only white discoloration and does not appear to be more than skin deep, and if the hair on the spot has not turned white, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has not changed and the problem has not spread on the skin, the priest will quarantine the person for 7 more days. On the 7th day, the priest will make another examination. If he finds the affected area has faded and is not spread, the priest will pronounce the person ceremonially clean. It was only a rash. The person's clothing must be washed, and the person will be ceremonially clean. But if the rash continues to spread after the person has been examined by the priest and has been pronounced clean, the infected person must return to the examined again. If the priest finds that the rash is spread, he must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean, for it is indeed a skin disease. Anyone who develops a serious skin disease must go to the priest for an examination. If the priest finds white swelling on the skin and some of the hair on the spot has turned white, and there is an open sore in the affected area, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. In such cases, the person need not be quarantined, for it is obvious that the skin is defiled by this disease. Now, suppose the disease has spread all over the person's skin, covering the body from head to foot. When the priest examines the infected person and finds that the disease covers the entire body, he will pronounce the person ceremonially clean. Since the skin has turned completely white, the person is clean. But if the open sores appear, the infected person will be pronounced ceremonially unclean. The priest must make this pronouncement as soon as he sees an open sore, since open sores indicate the presence of a skin disease. However, if the open sores heal and turn white like the rest of the skin, the person must return to the priest for another examination. If the affected area has indeed turned white, the priest will then pronounce the person ceremonially clean by declaring, "You're clean." If anyone has a boil on the skin that has started to heal, but a white swelling or reddish white spot develops in its place, that person must go to the priest to be examined. If the priest examines and finds it to be more than skin deep, and if the hair in the affected area has turned white, the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. The boil has become a serious skin disease. But if the person finds the white hair on the affected area and the problem appears to be no more than skin deep and has faded, the priest must quarantine the person for 7 days. If during the time the affected area spreads on the skin, the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean, because it is a serious disease. But if the area grows no larger and does not spread, it is merely a scar from a boil, and the priest will pronounce the person ceremonially clean. If anyone has suffered a burn on the skin, and the burned area changes color, becoming either reddish white or skin shiny white, the priest must examine. If he finds the hair in the affected area has turned white and the problem appears to be more than skin deep, a skin disease is broken out on the burn. The priest must then pronounce the person ceremonially unclean, for it is a serious skin disease. Okay, the guy gets burned, he burns himself on the fire, but then it becomes infected, really, and then it's the problem. It wasn't a problem when it was first burned, but now it's a problem because of the infection that's happened, and so he's unclean. But if the priest finds no white hair on the affected area and the problem appears to be no more than skin deep and has faded, the priest must quarantine the infected person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest must examine the person again. If the affected area has spread on the skin, the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean, for it is clearly a serious skin disease. But if the affected area has not changed or spread on the skin and has faded, it is simply a swelling from the burn. The priest will then pronounce the person ceremonially clean, for it is only a scar from the burn. If anyone, either man or woman, has a sore on his head or chin, the priest must examine it. If he finds that it is more than skin deep and has fine yellow hair on it, the priest must pronounce the person ceremonially unclean. It is a scabby sore of the head or chin. If the priest examines the scabby sore and finds that it is only skin deep, but there is no black hair on it, he must quarantine the person for 7 days. On the 7th day, the priest must examine the sore again. If he finds the scabby sore has not spread, and there is no yellow hair on it, and it appears to be only skin deep, the person must shave off all hair except the hair of the affected area, and then the priest must quarantine the person for another 7 days. On the 7th day, he will examine the sore again. If it has not spread and appears to be no more than skin deep, the priest will pronounce the person ceremonially clean. The person's clothing must be washed, and the person will be ceremonially clean. But if the scabby sore begins to spread after the person is pronounced clean, the priest must do another examination. If he finds the sore has spread, the priest does not need to look for the yellow hair. The infected person is ceremonially unclean. But if the color of the scabby sore does not change and black hair has grown on it, it is healed. The priest will then pronounce the person ceremonially clean. If anyone, either man or woman, has a shiny white patch on his skin, the priest must examine the affected area. If he finds that the shiny patches are only a pale white, then the harmless skin rash, and the person is ceremonially clean. If a man loses his hair and his hair becomes bald, he is still ceremonially clean. If the hair loses his forehead, he simply has a bald forehead. He is still clean. However, if a reddish white sore appears on the bald head and the top of the back of the head, this is a skin disease. The priest must examine him, and if he finds swelling in the reddish white sore anywhere on the man's head and looks like a skin disease, the man is indeed infected with a skin disease, and the man and is unclean. The priest must pronounce him ceremonially unclean because of the sore on his head. So that a bald-headed guy is not diseased. Okay, is what it's saying here, unless there is actual disease up there. Those who suffer from the serious skin disease must tear their clothing and leave their hair uncombed. They must cover their mouth and call out, "Unclean, unclean," as long as the serious disease lasts. They will be ceremonially unclean. They must live in isolation in the place outside the camp. This happened when Jesus was doing his ministry, and the lepers came to him. Or came across his path. They had to yell out "unclean" and had to stay far away from you. But Jesus goes up and heals them. Okay, and so this again, it's a longer episode because it's a longer section of scripture here. But what I wanted you to see is this is all pointing to the effects of sin, and skin is not just skin deep. It becomes serious when it gets deeper than the skin, and it can affect all parts of your body and even kill you. Okay, so sin leads to death ultimately. So don't think sin, and the world does this. They take it lightly and they go, "Oh yeah, it's just one little sin." Oh no, that can lead to many, many sins, and then ultimately death. Okay. You can start out with, "I'm just going to tell a little lie," and then you have to tell more lies to cover up that lie. Then you have to steal something to pay for the lie, and it goes on and on until you're in prison, and then eventually you do some bad drug deal or something, and you end up dead. Okay, so sin is more than just skin deep, and you need to always be aware of that and watch out for that. Okay, that's the bottom, what the picture is showing here in this chapter. Okay, thanks for watching. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. It's a completely different subject, and it's something I have a lot of interest in because it's part of my livelihood. Thanks for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Lord's blessing to you.